Alexander McQueen Series Episode 2, Spring and Summer 2010 collection called Plato's Atlantis, McQueen's last fully completed collection and the most extravagant collection to date. Hey fashion friends, the Alexander McQueen series are back on this channel. If you missed episode 1, I will link it up here, so if you want to, you can catch up. Today we are talking about Plato's Atlantis, which was McQueen's last fully realized collection. It was inspired by the story of a lost city of Atlantis, which according to the classical philosopher Plato, was submerged following a volcanic eruption over 2000 years ago. McQueen connected also the Darwin's 19th century theories of evolution with the 21st century concerns over global warming. His Plato's Atlantis was a prophecy of a future world in which ice caps would melt and the seas would rise, creating a need for humans to evolve in order to survive. So as you can imagine, it was a pure fantasy. McQueen wanted to present a mix between human race and underwater life, creating an army of new aquatic species, which were proudly presenting his digitally printed and engineered designs. McQueen has always been inspired with the elemental, fire, wind, earth, and especially water in his previous collections, such as La Poupée, which was for Spring and Summer 1997, in which models splashed through a wet catwalk. For Untitled Collection for Spring and Summer 1998, McQueen perplex reels were beneath the runway, flooded with black ink, followed by a rain which soaked the models. He also featured frozen water in form of ice and snow for his Autumn-Winter 1998 collection called The Overlook. Water always had a special place in McQueen's heart. As a child, he was practicing synchronized swimming, and later in life he was fascinated with scuba diving and observing the coral reef. As he said, "I have an affinity with the sea, maybe because I am Pisces, it's very calming." He was also fascinated with fish, eagerly watched sea life documentaries, also built fish tanks at his home, and made a chest tattoo of a koi carp. So now let's talk about the show itself. The show, of course, took place in Paris and was opened with a mesmerizing and discomforting at the same time film made by Alexander McQueen with Nick Knight and Ruth Hoban, which presented a woman mutating into an aquatic creature. The shoot featured a Brazilian supermodel, Raquel Zimmerman, who McQueen was really eager to have starring in this little film due to her powerful femininity. She was filmed laying down in a sandbox with snakes crawling all over her naked body. Then she was immersed in a water tank which was filled with black eels. Then digital prints of the collection were projected onto her body, transforming her into a semi-reptile being. I am going to link the clip that I just described to you down below so you can go and watch it in full, because there's a lot of nudity in there, so YouTube wouldn't want me including that video here. I hope you understand. So go down below and please watch it. It's quite spectacular actually, so I recommend you see. It's like few minutes long. Alexander McQueen was really into the idea of cold intelligence of the machine collaborating with the beauty and fragility of nature. All across the runway there were massive motion control cameras that tracked the models as they walked down the catwalk and also coldly surveyed the audience. It must have been a rather big budget production. Now let's talk about the collection. As Plato's Atlantis was a show way ahead of its time, McQueen styled his models as androgynous army of human/animal/alien beings from another world. As evolution advanced, each model channeled the progression from life on land to under the sea, and their features changed. Hair was either plaited tight close to the head or sculpted into fin-like peaks. The contours of models' faces were enhanced with prosthetic and makeup, connotating biological adaptation.
Had a lot of meetings with Alexander McQueen, and he's very inspired by lots of different things, from like alien movies to Art Nouveau, and it's about Darwin and the sort of like morphing from human to creature and all those kind of things. What it ends up being with the hair is like something that's like couture almost, like it's very detailed, very intricate, probably not very wearable. Some things are there for a fantasy and to inspire people.
I love it. Gosh, I have no words to describe this. Like the whole thing is just like out of this world.
It's some sort of an evolution, and then it's like a story of a ship sinking like the Titanic, and then evolving into water creatures, alien, bizarre. Look kind of alien from the beginning. No eyebrows, and then the last 15 girls start to transform into creatures. We get applications like special effect makeup and like really like sculpted faces, and voila.
It's a bit different to look like this, it's kind of crazy and it's out there, but when am I ever going to look like this again? At least I get the opportunity.
The exceptionally innovative collection featured dresses' colorful patterns with mirror image prints suggesting the throats of a moth, the precise markings of a snake, or depiction of the McQueen's beloved coral reef. Such vivid imagery was possible thanks to a new graphic software, inkjet printing, and Photoshop, which made overlaying complex patterns possible. For this collection, the designer mastered how to weave, engineer and print any digital image onto a garment so the pattern pieces would match the original design of each seam. It was a time-consuming process, as majority of the garments were created from a single length of fabric folded and draped around the model's body. As Sarah Burton herself explained, for Plato's Atlantis there were 36 prints altogether. They were circle engineered to the body, which meant that the prints were based on a circle shape that sat in the middle of a bolt of a fabric. Not only did you have to place the print correctly, but also, for example, if a fabric went from opaque to sheer, Lee had to do that in the fitting. His eye was so amazing he could drape an engineered print. Other than dresses, this collection also featured skirts, jackets, and leggings that resembled diving gear. I would now like to share with you my screen and show you some of the best pieces of this collection. We can have a closer look at the shoes, hair and makeup, so let's check out the collection up close now. To be completely honest with you, I found it really hard to pick just few looks that could be my favorite, as each garment was extraordinary, but I kind of narrowed it down to 5 looks that I will show you in detail. I will be using a Vogue Runaway website where they have every single picture of the garment. Okay, starting from look 4, we have a mini dress with like a bell-shaped skirt with snake print all over with puffy sleeves and a v-neck. I thought this dress was actually gorgeous. And the look is completed by armadillo boots in the same print, so the look is complete. You can say it's total snake look, and also the hair is just the beginning of the evolution to the human semi-reptile being. So the fins on top of the model's hair are still quite short, and the sides of her head are braided with a little bit of hair coming out just above the ears. I think this look is very interesting. It was one of the first looks of the show, so it gave a feeling what we can expect next. Next look of choice is number 14, made out of this gorgeous slippery satin looking navy green material. It's a one piece gathered at the waist with a belt that looks like it was made out of animal skin. The top part of the garment has sleeves reaching just below the elbow with a little bit of puffiness and a zip in the middle going all the way down to the trouser part where we have a lot of pockets with zips, we have a bit of puffiness, and then the pant finishes just below the knee. Very interesting part of this look are the shoes, which were actually not only the shoes but the whole look was a part from the collection that was inspired by shipwrecks, drawing inspiration from Titanic. The main mood for this part of the collection was leather, tarnished metal, and corroded necklaces and accessories. As we can see here, the neck part is full of those. The shoe, interestingly, was called a mechano as the heel was articulated and appeared as if constructed from mechano pieces. Every detail of this design was considered very carefully, from the riveted toe to the riveted heel and the verdigris color leather. Moving on, we have look number 19 with this gorgeous ginger model wearing a dress that really complements her features, her hair, her pale skin. I think this was a perfect choice for this dress. It's a fully embroidered, embellished dress in like a golden sparkly color. As you can see, it must have taken ages to complete all of these little pieces. The dress is cinched at the waist, and again we have mini skirt down with a little bit of bell shape, and we have, of course, the armadillo boot with also plenty of embroideries, which looks like the model is just coming out or into the ocean. Another look of choice is number 26 with Miss Curly Claws as a model. As you can see, the hair is already transformed into those fin-like shapes, and there is a braid in the middle. The model is wearing a gorgeous v-neck shaped blue dress with a lot of ruffles on the bottom. They reminded me of sea waves or coral reef. I cannot make up my mind, but it looks so beautiful, and a lot of colors make the dress move beautifully, and also there's a lot of embroidery at the waist and at the sleeves. The model is also wearing the mechano shoes inspired by the shipwreck. She's also wearing a very gorgeous and embellished with blue crystals round shaped purse. One of the last looks I want to show you is number 40. Just because of the print, you can see the model already has the fin-shaped hair. She's already evolved into the creature. But look at the print. I think it's amazing that McQueen had this very big piece of material that was all with this print, and he managed to cut it in the way that it looks so cohesive and it matches and it just makes such a big impression. I think a lot of these ruffles on the shoulders also do the job. They make the model look almost like she's already evolved into some kind of creature being. She doesn't have this human shape because of the shoulder part, and she's also wearing amazing embellished armadillo boot. I think these are so pretty and so bedazzled. I love them. And also, last but not least, I really enjoyed the last final look of the show. I think it was really gorgeous.
The final look of the collection was called Neptune's Daughter. How else could McQueen call the last look of the show? Modeled by the McQueen's muse Paulina Kashina. It was a dress, leggings, and armadillo boots covered entirely with large sequins. The sea creature was described in the show notes as capable of surviving without the use of the man-made breathing apparatus. McQueen's interpretation for Plato's Atlantis was described in the book called Alexander McQueen Evolution, and it said, "Foreseeing a time when the polar caps have melted and the seas have risen, McQueen predicts a future in which humans, with the aid of bioengineering, reverse evolution and return to the sea from which life came." Plato's Atlantis, the title of the show, refers to the legendary island described by the classical Greek philosopher as having sunk beneath the sea. McQueen explains that this show is based on fantasy, myth, and legend. The show consisted of a total of 45 looks. 15 of the more complicated and bespoke looks were for the show only and were not suitable for commercial production, as it was a ready-to-wear collection. This also included the famous armadillo boots or the alien footwear, The 30 commercially produced pairs were made in Italy from the same expensive fabrics as the show collection garments.
The armadillo shoes are one of the most iconic pieces of design that McQueen ever created, but they have to be seen in the context of the wider collection, which was Plato's Atlantis, his last fully realised collection. The new silhouette that he created was really spectacular. An alien form emerges onto the catwalk with most extraordinarily beautiful outfit, back-combed hair, but walking on these towering armadillo shoes, which it's quite difficult to create entirely new shoe forms, but McQueen has really done it here. The form of the armadillo shoe was constructed in a reasonably conventional way, although it looks very unconventional. The base was carved from wood, and then the upper took the form of a high-heeled shoe, which the model's foot slipped into. And then it was secured with 2 zips on the inner lining, and then 2 zips with the outer body of the shoe. And then in some cases there was an additional ankle cuff.
So the alien shoe was part of Alexander McQueen's Spring-Summer 2010 collection, Plato's Atlantis. And what I really responded to about this design is the biomorphic spine-like form that starts at the sole of the shoe and kind of winds its way up the heel and around the toes of the foot. And so it really almost looks like the wearer is being kind of ensnared in this snake-like form. What's really alarming is that there is also a single finger that just kind of curls itself around the wearer's toe. So it's almost like the model is going to be sucked into the earth by this form. And it really is referencing in its design the creations of H.R. Giger. The film Alien won a special effects Oscar in 1980. And Giger said in an interview with the BBC in 1981 that he never created designs that were pretty. You know, he said, I never would make a flower unless it's a flower that would eat someone. So there is this kind of sinister combination of biology and mechanics involved in Giger's work, which here McQueen is referencing.
As you can see, those were a very high quality and luxurious shoes for a ready-to-wear collection. Such shoes we usually see in haute couture collection, not in ready-to-wear, so McQueen really went all the way with the shoes this time. To summarize the collection, Plato's Atlantis was widely considered as the designer's greatest achievement and legacy, and personally it was my favorite collection ever to date, not only from McQueen but from all the designers. I really love this collection. The finale of the show was set to the soundtrack of Lady Gaga's new song called Bad Romance, and was also an incredible commercial success as the singer wore McQueen's designs in her music video. The production for this show came up to almost £1 million for a 17-minute show. It was the first fashion show to be live streamed on the internet via a fashion website called SHOWstudio, allowing people who were not present to watch the show live. Plato's Atlantis was a show way ahead of its time, and it's still talked about today. For example, I'm talking about it today since it was the one that changed the fashion industry forever, and since it was the last complete collection designed by Alexander McQueen himself before his tragic death. Isabella Blow perfectly summarized the collection by saying he was a Poseidon and we were his mermaids, and then McQueen said on the water being his inspiration, sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, but then again, I've always felt peace and quiet under the ocean with me, myself and I. This is the most definitely one of the most amazing collections ever made to date. It was this collection actually that made me fall in love with fashion. When I just became a teenager and I saw this collection on the TV, I thought, oh my god, this is so amazing, and here I am years later still talking about this collection. So it made a big impact on my life and a lot of other people's lives, and I would also like to know your thoughts. What do you think of this collection? Please let me know in the comments. And I will see you in the next episode of the Alexander McQueen series. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!